25s are old school. Welcome guys to the video, what's the best tire width for your road bike? Some years ago we saw the switch from 23 to 25s. Well, it was more of a trend because everyone wanted to go wider, because there were some studies or laboratory trials that actually concluded that 25s have a lower rolling resistance than 23s, because the tire patch that actually touches the road, so the contact point, is wider, yes, but also shorter, and so the resulting tire rolling resistance is really lower at the 25. And nowadays that we have disc brake road bikes that are pretty much standard, especially if you look at brands like Trek and Specialized. Also in the professional peloton you see World Tour teams, almost everyone on disc brakes. So you can also always check out the trends that the professionals follow, and also they go wider and wider. For races like Paris-Roubaix they go as wide as 32, I believe, with tubeless tires. 30 is like standard, 28 possible, but I don't really think so, because the wider the more comfort, also the faster you go over like imperfections on roads. At Paris-Roubaix, of course, the cobbles, but as we amateur riders, we don't really ride cobbles every day, but we have streets that are just not perfectly smooth, so we also have like imperfections, little holes, etc. And we need our tires to roll over that smoothly. Wider tires, you're able to run them with lower pressures, so you can roll over them more smoothly. And for one instance, it is faster, it is more comfortable, and the comfort also results in you being fit. If you ride a tour of like 6 hours on the bike and you have like a 23mm popped up really high to like 8 bars on your muscles, etc. Basically your whole body will be just much more fatigued than if you were riding on 28 tubeless tires, because the bumps are just absorbed much better. And if you don't have this absorption from your tire, it is basically your body that needs to absorb all this stuff, and that uses a high amount of energy. So for a couple of weeks earlier this year I was riding with this beauty here. This is the Sarto Zeta Plus. Of course, disc brakes on it, like a 45mm deep carbon fiber wheels that have an internal width of 19mm, which isn't the widest I've seen, but surely is wider than the standard we have seen 5 or 10 years ago. And fitted onto them is a 28mm Continental tire set up tubeless. Of course, this tire grew and grew, especially on the wide rim, and also with the pressure and the heat and whatnot. So surely it's now at 30mm wide if you measure it. However, you're really able to run this like at 5 bars, so really low pressure. During those weeks that I rode this bike, I could sense it, that this bike it just feels really fast on the flats as well as going up the mountains, and I just felt fast and smooth. I just felt really relaxed on it and safe, so the feeling was really good. And compared to like a 23 with inner tubes, just another feeling. You don't feel as safe, as smooth and fast on the road. So already the feedback from a few weeks from an amateur rider like me is pretty positive, the wider the tire is and the lower the pressure. However, there's something else to it, and that is aerodynamics. Back in the days we believed that the narrower the tire, the faster we go, like we cut through the air. However, that's not 100% true. What's basically important is that you need a really nice fit between the tire and the rim. And we've also seen rims getting wider and wider, because they need to support the fatter tires that we have these days. And the nice fitting rim and tire actually form a really nice aerodynamic shape, in the shape of a tear, you would say, but the rims actually have gotten a lot more bulkier at the end, and they don't have this V shape anymore like the old lightweights, if you remember, because that is actually not as aerodynamic as we thought. Because if you have like a crosswind and you have this really sharp edge and the wind tries to flow over that isn't smooth at all, because you have this V shape. Now it's much more like a U shape, and the air just flows nicely over this U if you have a crosswind, because the wind doesn't always come from the front, of course, and you have to calculate that in. So in conclusion, the best tire width for you would be, if as an amateur rider you go as wide as possible. It depends if you have a rim or a disc brake bike. Of course, with disc brake bikes you can go up to like 32 nowadays. Maybe you don't want to go as high, because you still want to calculate in the rotating weight that you have, and the wider the tire, also the heavier it will be, and at some point it will just be too heavy for you to really benefit from this tire. So I believe that a 28 tubeless tire is like the perfect tire nowadays, maybe even 30, but if you have a 28 it will grow to 30, even 31 or 32, because 25 is just a bit narrow. And if you have disc brakes, I think you should benefit from the additional tire clearance that you have. If you have a rim brake bike, of course, you have to like test out what's possible. On my Sartor Solar, it's a bit of a pity that I could only fit 25s. It's because of the brake caliper. However, the 25 tubeless is really comfortable. Comfort, safety, nice grip, of course the feeling of safety, like how the tire behaves in turns, is really important to us amateur riders. And what's not as important as you think is speed, rolling resistance and aerodynamics, because it's not about seconds with us. It's just about having a good time on the bike and not being wasted after 6 hours on the bike. So if you have any thoughts about this, please let me know in the comment section below. Of course, this is a huge topic. Those like a couple of minutes I talk about now are not really sufficient, but let me know, and have a good day, and I see you in the next one.